gonna skip the part where I do a long intro and just dive right in. This is my everything I made in 2025 video. I like doing these videos because it is a great time for me to reflect, but I like posting them to the channel because I think it's really good for people who are new to sort of see a portfolio of the types of projects that I work on and see if I'm really their vibe. My only reminder is do not compare yourself with other people. There are plenty of content creators I've seen who have made way more than me and way more complex stuff than me. And there are plenty of people I have seen who have made 1 or 2 objects this year, and that is also amazing. We do not need to be comparing quantity nor quality of project being made. The first finished object that I finished on January 1st of 2025 is my PNW hat. This is my silly little hat, and I call it the PNW hat because it is a stereotype in the Pacific Northwest of the United States that when people wear beanies like this, it's very common to see them fold it above their ears, so there is zero warmth being provided to your head. While I have always found them deeply silly and unpractical, I have always wanted one, so I made one. They are definitely more of a hair accessory than a hat, and I love it. For a lot of my projects, I actually wrote out notes on Ravelry if they're self-drafted, discussing how I made this. So this one I talk about how many stitches did I cast on, when did I do decreases. So if you want to be a little bit brave or you're more of an intermediate or above sort of knitter, you could probably follow the instructions I put on there. Next up, and this is a reason why this year's everything I made is going to be a bit more interesting, I don't physically have about half of the things that I've knit and crocheted this year. I have given them to other people. Lucky me, I have a YouTube channel, so I do have B-roll footage and photos of pretty much everything I made, which makes this a little bit easier. At the beginning of this year, I really wanted to use up a lot of my Drops Melody scraps. It's a yarn type I really wanted to love, but it ended up being just way too itchy, and I think I was allergic to it because my fingers they would get all red and blotchy, and same with my skin would be all itchy the next few days, so that yarn ended up being a no-go, and I gave away any of the scrunchies that I did make with it. Third one is the only one I have no pictures of. It is a complete mystery project. It is a balaclava that I made for my neighbor. She saw me wearing my white balaclava and just loved it and asked if I would make one for her, and I have an inability to say no to people, so I said yes, made it in just like 2-3 days and handed it over to her. I made it with this black cashmere yarn that I had on hand. It turned out good, but it was, pretty basic. The baby clone trooper sweater I made was one of my favorite projects of this year. My friend was pregnant at the time, but my friend's husband is really into Star Wars, so I wanted to incorporate that a little bit into a sweater and have some fun with it. I made sure the yarn I picked was one that would be machine washable and dryable, just because people have kids. I'm trying not to gift them chores. Hey, hand wash this. No, I have a kid. Camisole number 7. I had to check because I couldn't believe I made this year with how much I wore this over the summer and spring. I've been layering it over long sleeve tops, wearing it on its own as a tank top. It's made with Drops Bell, which makes it just so easy to machine wash, let it air dry. And that's pretty essential for me for summer knits, is just being able to wash them frequently because I sweat and I don't like wearing really sweaty clothes multiple times in a row without washing them in between. But I'm really content with how this is held up, and I would love to make another one. Here we have the Kilometer Scarf by Florence Miller. I made this one super duper extra long and no regrets. But I have gotten to wear it just a couple times on my way to work because waiting at the bus stop, it can get a little chilly sometimes. And this is so soft and so warm. The only downside to this scarf is if I do get too hot, I can't just take it off and wear it like this because it'll drag on the ground due to how long it is and how short I am. But it's kind of worth it because I really love the look of a really long scarf when I'm actually wearing it. This is definitely my go-to I need to stay warm knit accessory. Also for my friend's baby, I made a slipover. This was kind of a boredom cast on. I just felt like making something easy, fun, quick. I think I had a bunch of failed projects in a row leading up to it. I ended up altering the sibling sweater pattern, mostly just taking inspiration from the construction type that was used and the stripes, of course. Now, there is a kid's version, but this was for a baby, so I just altered the adult's version and guessed based on that. These are the sporty texture mittens, I think I called them, because I wanted to do the athletic stripe on the cuff. I thought that was really fun. I'm glad I went with the red to match the PNW hat that I made, and the best feature of these is there is a hole in the mitten, which is why it is called the texture mitten. I wasn't sure how this feature was going to play out for me, I love it. I wear these mittens all the time, and it is really, really nice when I am on a walk so I can click to the next song, podcast, respond to a text without having to take my mitten fully off. And the nice thing also about having the hole for my finger is you don't have to take off your whole mitten. When I was worried about it being too cold, having a hole in it, I'm like, well, your whole hand gets exposed to the cold when you have to take off your entire mitten in order to respond to a text. I say that like I'm texting all the time. I'm usually just switching to the next song. The Wizard's Semper Slipover. This is inspired by Howl's Moving Castle, specifically the star people in Howl's Moving Castle. I loved the color of this yarn so much. It is this really amazing blue color. I didn't have enough of the yarn to make a sweater, so I decided to go with a like slipover sweater vest. Upsides. One, looking at it, it's pretty cute. It's fun. But I ended up giving this one away because I didn't love how the double knitting felt when I was wearing it. I would not do that again. I think double knitting has proven to me to be my least favorite way of finishing edges, so I will steer clear in the future. And other than that, it was totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just didn't reach for it in my closet, but it was still fun to make. So it was one of those things that I made that I really loved, just not for me to wear. We're now in the timeline, we're in April. So in April, I made the Malaga sweater. My husband and I went to Malaga for a trip. He had a business trip and I joined him because yay, not having to spend money on a hotel, plus only having to pay for one flight. Super nice. And while I was there, I ended up bringing a bunch of yarn, just being like, maybe I'll think of something to make. And I worked up most of the sweater. For this one, the fit was a little bit off for me and the color palette was a little bit off for me to wear, as much as I really did love the result. So I think this one ended up going to my little sister. I brought a whole bag of stuff when I visited in November to my friends and family, and a bunch of people ended up taking stuff. There were probably like 4 things that were left over that no one took, and my husband just threw that in my in-laws' bedroom and was like, all right, deal with it. Sorry to my in-laws. Next up is a purely practical cast on. Hello, Pippin. Yes, you can sit on those. This was a water bottle sleeve. I had this lid that goes onto all of my glass jars, and it's my favorite water bottle. But, you know, when I take them out and about, I'm worried about the glass. So I ended up making a crochet sleeve, and when the lid's on here, there's no glass exposed. Next up, we have the iceberg sweater, although it looks a little different now than when I initially finished it. I made a rookie mistake, and I washed my white sweater along with a hand-dyed red knit sock and dyed sections of my sweater pink. So the whole thing is now red. This just finished drying after dyeing, and I have a whole video coming out where I fix, mend, adjust, and flip a lot of my clothes. So stay tuned for that if you're really into like mending stuff. So just talking about purely the sweater, this is one of the best fitting sweaters I have ever made. Certainly in my top 2 for this year in terms of fit. But I don't think I've pill shaped it at all this year, and I've worn it a bunch, so it's been holding up really well. My favorite part of this sweater is the detailing on the ribbing, where I did 5 rounds of ribbing, and then I would do 5 rounds of stockinette stitch to get this sort of controlled rolled hem, and I did that on all of the hems, which turned out just lovely and fun. This one I definitely included instructions on my Ravelry for how I made this. It's not a polished pattern, it's literally just what I did, but again, I feel like if you're an intermediate or above knitter, you could probably tackle that, or at least get a feel for the strategy I used. I'm seeing a trend on the couch here of red and white knits. Let's add another color to the mix. This sweater was made using a pattern that I was gifted. It is the fairy tale sweater, and I ended up just omitting the sleeves, and I messed with the construction a little bit. I really love just messing with patterns so much. This was a really fun opportunity for me to mess around with using drawstrings on my sweaters, and it was just fun to play around with. I considered adding sleeves to this, but I think I'm just gonna leave it as is. It's kind of fun. I don't have enough sweater vests in my collection. I keep saying I want more, and I keep not making them. So I need this to help represent my sweater vest collection. I'm gonna bury you in sweaters, Pippin. Next up, we have crochet bandanas. I made one in white probably a year and a half ago, maybe more, I don't know time. And I left it, I think, at my apartment pool, and it was not there when I went back. Hopefully someone's enjoying that now, probably not. So I ended up making one for myself in yellow and one for my friend in navy blue because I just wanted some quick, easy projects. This is a weekend project. This is probably a day-long project if you want to spend a whole day just chilling and crocheting. Maybe less if you're really fast. I'm not really fast. This definitely gets more wear in the summer for me than other seasons, but I do really like the yellow because it's low contrast with my hair. My only potential complaint with this is I made it using Knitting for Olive wool. and it's a little bit rough. Thankfully, this mostly just touches my hair, so I don't need to feel it 99% of the time. It just touches kind of behind my ears, and that's a little bit more sensitive, but it hasn't been enough of a problem for me to not wear this. I try to be real with my projects about what I do and don't like. I don't want to just be like, I made everything and it's all amazing and nothing went wrong ever, because that's so not true. The amount of projects that I am not showing in this video because they have since been unraveled is unreal. This was a big year of unraveling for me. Next up, there was a big hiatus in my knitting, and the next project that I started was my Halloween sweater. This is the Nocturnal Jumper by Sasky & Co., formerly known as the Petite Knitter. This one I have such mixed feelings about. I enjoy doing color work, especially on a circular yoke. So fun. But the cat section did frustrate me quite a bit because it was so slow and I could not get into a flow, which is my number one thing that I enjoy about knitting, is when I get into a flow state and I can just go for hours and it feels very meditative. But I could not get to that place when I was working on the cat section of the sweater. I was doing the ladder back jacquard method, which was really helpful. I have no regrets about using that method to maintain the back. It's a way of sort of making a cage for all your floats in the back using one of your yarn colors. And it's not bad. It's not even that frustrating. It's not that hard. It just prevented me from getting into a flow state. But once I was done with the cats, man, I just flew through the rest of the sweater. This one is really cute, but very warm, so I have not gotten to wear it very much. I would like to experiment with yarns in the coming year with doing multicolor color work and seeing if I can complete a sweater with color work that isn't super warm, because I love them so much, but I can never wear them because they're way too hot. I'm hoping Drops Cotton Merino is going to be my answer. Oh, and I do love this sweater visually. Like, it's beautiful. That, and who else has a sweater like this? I mean, I know a bunch of people who knit do, but, you know, regular people out in the universe that don't knit, people don't have Halloween sweaters. The only other thing I would change, honestly, and I feel a little bad about this, is I used a grayish yarn for this, and I kind of wish I did white. I've seen an example done with a off-white creamy sort of base color instead of a grayish, and I prefer that higher contrast a little bit. Sad to say, when you spend a lot of time on something and you're like, yeah, this little change would make me like it more. I do still like it though. This is my crochet spider web. Love this thing. It is the perfect Halloween decoration. It stores down so small and flat. They're just kind of fun and easy to make, and they take up a lot of space. Number one recommended Halloween decor. Make one of these. Do it. Do it. Do it. You're scared. Do it. The best feature that I added, because I have made these in previous years, the best new feature I added was adding these tiny little spiders. I mean, they're not tiny. They're pretty beefy. But I made these polymer clay little guys, coated them in a UV resin, and I screwed in a little eyelet to its butt so I could hang it down. And they serve a very important purpose of weighing down the spider web. I talk more about the strategy behind making one of these in one of my videos, but the most important element is tension points. If you want it to look really smooth and even, if you want it to look kind of draped, then you don't need to worry about it. You can just kind of do whatever you want. But I like it with a bit more tension pulled onto it so you can see all the details, and the spiders serve as weights to add way more tension points to this, so that when I'm hanging it in my little alcove, I only need to attach it to so many points on the wall. The Midnight Forest sweater is one that I had started as an attempt to use up a lot of my remaining Drops Air yarn. I'm not as drawn to that yarn as I used to be. I still like it, but I kind of went overboard with it for a while. The fade was not working out so great, so I ended up going back and duplicate stitching in speckles of various colors to help make the fade, play a little bit better when you're looking at it from afar. And I was probably halfway through the yoke when I realized this is not the sweater that I would wear. It was something I really wanted to work on and I was really enjoying the process of, but I knew once I was done I wasn't going to wear it. So I ended up texting a bunch of people and being like, whoever responds first and wants this sweater can have it. My older sister ended up saying, hey, I will absolutely take this if you want someone to take it. So I finished that up for her, gave it to her when I visited in November, the great purge of all my knitting and crochet objects. And I was able to finish it on that trip because I'd run out of yarn on that sweater multiple times, seriously underestimated what I would need. And the yarn I needed to finish it arrived hours before we left on our road trip. So I was thankfully able to finish it in time. And she says it fits her just fine. She says she's happy with it. I'm pretty content with how it turned out. I really was overthinking the process a lot on that one and needed to let go a little bit more. Two projects that kind of go together. I made these crochet spirals and I was really thinking of what the heck I could make out of these crochet spirals. I again concluded, similar to the Midnight Forest sweater, that whatever it was, I wasn't going to want to keep it. My apartment's full. I don't have room for more stuff. So if I'm putting something in here, I need to 110% be head over heels in love with it. And I just wasn't in that place with these spirals. So again, texted a bunch of people saying who would want these. Actually, I think I specifically texted my little sister first. I figured she was the best bet for someone wanting them, and she really loves and appreciates handmade things. She especially really enjoys crochet items, so she was very excited to get them, and I asked her what she would want, said here are the things that I could potentially make out of them. Is any of that jumping out to you? And she said, yes, I would love a bag and 2 pillows if you could. And so whipped those up, and it was actually really nice and satisfying. I was really happy with how they all turned out. I was glad to give them away to somebody else, but I was content with how they turned out. Ooh, drama happening outside. None of my business. Next up is my Christmas sweater. I made the Northern Augustan sweater number 4 last year for Christmas. And I ended up using accidentally 2 different types of yarn that aged 2 different types of ways. So gave that one away. And I also knew that I loved that sweater, so I ended up just making another one. But I ran into a different problem this time, which is the sleeves. You might be able to tell. They're different lengths. How the heck did that happen? That's never happened to me before. So I need to go back and fix that. But this is technically a finished object. It's just not finished very well. I would totally recommend this pattern. It's really easy to follow, but it is pretty bare bones. So I don't know how beginner friendly it would be. It's definitely good for people who don't like really wordy patterns. I seem to have forgotten a sweater. Shame on me. This is one that I made in July. This is my Polaroid 2.0 sweater. This is the best fitting sweater I have ever made. The iceberg sweater that I made, the one dyed red, that one fits really well, but this one I did just a little bit more neckline shaping on, and 10 out of 10 fit. This is going to be my North Star for fit in future projects. I did take notes on how I made this, right down to the neck shaping that I did, and stitch counts and everything. So if you want to make it exactly as is, go for it. Some people ask me permission. That's very sweet, but you can copy anything I've made. I don't write knitting patterns. I don't want to write knitting patterns. If you want to make something that I've made, go for it. And I would love to see a picture of it if you do. The stripe is based on the Polaroid logo. I wanted something that looked a little bit vintage. I think this wouldn't be out of place in sort of a 1980s high school movie. Add a puffer vest and some jeans and you're set. So I'm really happy with this, and I'm glad that I reattempted it. This, I guess, was also the year of me remaking things I've already made, because I had already made a Polaroid sweater, but I didn't quite love the fit of it, and there were a couple other issues with it. So I have remade it in a much better way. I appreciate doing that as my confidence grows, skills grow in knitting. The first Polaroid sweater I made was the second sweater I had ever knit, so it was never going to be perfect. And I was really happy to recreate it and get a visual and physical feel for exactly how much my knitting has improved over the years. Also, I found some of the scrunchies I have that are remaining, but I cut my hair, so I haven't been wearing as many of the big thick scrunchies anymore. Still waiting for my hair to grow up, but we'll get there. Something else I made that I might make a bunch more of, I don't know. Maybe. I made I-cord bows. I made multiple of them and have just been sticking them in random places. So this one, I should probably make a second one of. So this tiny one, I sometimes have a pin for it, and I stick it on my purse, stick it on my backpack. I'll tie it onto Mary's collar for Christmas just to have her be really adorable for a couple hours. She's already really adorable. And the big one, I usually keep it on my lamp over here, and sometimes I'll take it off to wear it as like a little necktie accessory, because I think that's just cute and fun. I might make more of these in different colors, but I am really digging the red bow. I guess we're going completely out of order. This is no longer in chronological order. I've already forgotten so many. I'm professional here. This is my Little Red Riding Hood. This is another home to one of my I-cord bows. The construction is very simple. Again, full instructions on my Ravelry for how I made this. Someone else had messaged me telling me that they did make this, and it turned out really well, so yay. I did strategic increasing on the shoulders and the neck to give it a sort of diamond pointed style, and I added on this I-cord bow because I love when you have the ties, kind of like a hoodie, on the balaclavas, but I didn't need it to serve any structural purposes, so I just wanted it to be one that you could attach and detach. That's a word. So I ended up using a nose ring of mine because they close up and they stay very secure, but they are detachable. So I attached my I-cord to the nose ring. That way I can remove the bow and keep it on whenever I want it. Do love that all of my winter accessories go together because the ones I made last year were almost all white, and I have those in my closet. So now this was the year of making red winter accessories. And I think next year it'll just be all the colors of the rainbow. I'm feeling really colorful lately. Speaking of, this is one of my favorite finished objects of the year. I had other projects I needed to be working on because there was a deadline involved, but I could not put down this scarf because I was enjoying it so much. It was the stripes. It was that there are so many different colorful stripes. This is the first time that I really let myself not overthink things and made myself not overthink things. Normally, when I go to do a scrappy sweater of any sort, I will overthink the colors. I will lay them out and I'll think 20 colors ahead and really plan it out. And I'll just sit there for hours rearranging yarn. And that's time I'm spending not knitting. So on this one, my only rule was whatever color I knit, it has to look good with the color next to it. That's it. That's the only rule. I'm not allowed to think 10 steps ahead. I'm just allowed to think about the next color. And that worked out really well. This is just, it's so fun. I have been wearing this a ton this winter already, and I hope it lasts forever. It's very, very soft, not itchy in the slightest with the Drops Cotton Merino, which is currently my favorite budget yarn. Have I said how much I like it? It's the Kilometer Scarf by Florence Miller. A very nice, easy project, and there was a theme to most of my knits this year. They were all pretty basic compared to previous years. This year I had a lot going on in my professional life, and I could not handle taking on really complicated projects, and I had to go through a lot of, mental hurdles around that. I was feeling really insecure about the types of projects I was working on, and it took a long time to let go and be like, no, if I just want to work on basic patterns, I can just work on basic patterns. If I want to knit 18 more of the Kilometer scarves in solid colors, that's fine. I don't like that I still have this tiny voice in my head saying I need to do bigger, better, bolder, challenge myself. I don't always need to be challenging myself. I can just knit for the pure love of knitting. Where I did challenge myself was in sewing. That's going to be the second half of this video. I had to check last year's Everything I Made video to make sure that I didn't make this last year, so I must have made it in January or something, but this is my rock climbing bag. This bag was really fun to make, and it was an ode to practicality. I was trying to solve a lot of problems with this bag. First off, it needed to store all of my rock climbing gear, and currently stored perfectly in here is my harness, my shoes, chalk bag, hand lotion. I made a specific pocket for my hand lotion. I wanted a pocket in the front to have my phone. Yeah, this is where I store my hand lotion. I added these clips on the inside to hold my badge for swiping in and out of the gym. Had another bonus one to hold my keys when I go in so that they're just easy to access. I didn't want my keys dropping to the bottom of the bag and having to dig them out. I made the whole thing quilted just to give it some extra durability. The star on it is really fun and cute. I was using up a lot of scrap material with this project. The inside of the bag is actually a different fabric altogether. So they all look really cute together though. This was an incredibly simple sewing project that has proven to be very practical. We all know cutting up your towels, make washcloths out of them. But my issue with all washcloths for cleaning is my hand gets wet when I spray the cleaner everywhere. I don't like when the wetness gets through the cloth and gets on my fingers. So I wanted to make extra thick washcloths. All I did was cut up 2 squares, sew them together, right sides together, flip them inside out, close up the hole, and I have my extra thick washcloths. I made 10 of these. Love them. And I also made like a really big one. I think it's maybe 12 inches by 18 inches, like 0.5 meters by 0.3 meters. And I made that specifically for soaking up spills. It has already come in real handy for that. We had a leak in our sink and there was like half an inch of water at the bottom, and using that just soaked everything up because it was just a super duper extra thick designed to soak up liquid, massive washcloth. I say was, like I don't have it. I do have it. It's just in the laundry. Next up, we have a quilt. This is the first quilt I ever finished. It's not the first quilt I've ever started because I still haven't finished the first quilt I've ever started, but this is the first one I finished. I'm going to try not to step on Pippin. My grandma gave my mom a bunch of her fabric because my grandma decided she didn't want to be quilting as much anymore. And my mom had us go through and pick out anything that we wanted. And in it, there was a pile of maybe 10, 15 cut out denim squares from, I'm guessing, my late grandfather's jeans. So I ended up cutting up some of my old jeans that I didn't throw away because I knew I was going to use them for something. I just didn't know what. And now I know. All of my denim, when my jeans get holes in the inner thighs now, I don't get mad anymore. I just get excited. Another denim scrap project. The backing is also denim and it's filled with a cotton batting. This is my car quilt. I think everyone should have a car quilt. It's been really nice for if I find furniture at the thrift store, I can wrap it up in this. It's nice for if we ever wanted a dog in our car to contain the hair. Sometimes we've had to put some dirty things in the car. And since we just got a newer car, I really am more protective of it. So it's been nice to have the car quilt. A little detail I added to this one that I thought was really cute was I took the Wrangler tag off of one of my husband's old pairs of jeans and I sewed it onto the quilt, and it's just a cute detail. I'm also really happy with the stitching I did on here. Just these simple little orange X's, very minimal, but the contrasting color makes it, a little bit extra fun, and it feels very classic to me. This isn't really a sewing project, but I'm putting it in this section anyways. I made fake post-it notes this year out of fabric. They're really cute, really fun. I would like to make more. I just need to come up with ideas for what to put on them and where to stick them. But it is fun to have on a little project bag like this. I saw a picture on Pinterest and I really wanted to recreate it because I thought it looked really, really cool. So I don't know if I would wear something like this out in public, like a jacket just covered in these little post-it notes. Maybe I would. But it would still be fun to make, even though it's not practical. That's another mental hurdle of this year is, can I make something even though it doesn't serve a practical purpose? The answer is yes. I just have a difficult time letting myself prioritize projects like that. But these are really cool. And I tested out a bunch of different methods for making these. And if you ever wanted to make something like this, you can check out the video. It's pretty short. And I just go through, here are different ways to make it. Here are different ways to ink it, how to stick them on. Just did the testing so you didn't have to. I do really like working on little projects like this. It feels more like the type of stuff I did when I was a kid. And I tend to think really big with my projects, being like, how can I be bigger? How can I do more complicated? But the stuff that brings me the most joy has always been these little tiny projects. Also this year, I made a tube top that I can't find. It's hidden in storage somewhere. Hopefully I can find it again by next summer because it is now my go-to, oh no, I messed up, sunburn tube top. I used a stretch material that I already had in stash that was just the softest material. And I got this really horrible sunburn at the beginning of this year because my skin is so sensitive. It was even cloudy out all day and I was sitting under a sun umbrella. And I still got really, really badly burned. And I'm wondering how I made it this far in life without having a designated sunburn piece of clothing. Next up is the first sewing pattern of the year. These are the Lane pants. One adjustment I made to these was adding 2 drawstrings instead of just 1 because I feel like that was a really interesting design choice. I don't know if I would do that in the future, but it was fun to try and have on a pair of pants. I also made the drawstrings really, really long. Super impractical. So I don't know if I would go with as long of a drawstring in the future, but it does have a really cool look to it when I am wearing it, and it gives it some more movement when I'm walking. I made this using Blackbird Fabrics washed linen. It's a nice, heavy, draped linen, but it is more difficult to work with because all I had been using in the past was quilter's cotton for pretty much all of my sewing projects. So this was a half step up in difficulty and had to be a little bit more careful with it. So I've learned a little bit more with how to work with this fabric, but definitely still need a lot of practice to really nail it. I do like the movement of this material though. Very nice. I think I made these this year. I need to double check. I thought I did a really good job keeping a list this year, but it doesn't seem to make a difference because I'm still forgetting stuff. This is a pair of boxers made with plain quilter's cotton, which is my preferred boxer short material. They soften up pretty nicely in the wash. It's just easy to work with. I do appreciate a good drape here and there, but I don't mind stiffness. It's really itchiness is always my biggest concern, but with cotton, it shouldn't be itchy. Oh my gosh, if your cotton's itchy, something's wrong. So these were just self-drafted boxers. I've made several of these in the past. I plan on making more. It's a simple weekend project for me to do. And for this one, I really like the technique that I did, which is folding the top edge in on itself with the elastic and containing it so that there's no exposed raw edges in here. And all the seams on the inside are finished with a French seam. So everything is very durable and held up. My only mistake with these shorts was probably making them just a teensy bit too short. Pretty much the exact same thing as the shorts I just talked about, except in pink linen this time. I wasn't sure about the color of these, but since I've made them, I've ended up wearing them with a lot of different colors in my wardrobe, and it's been a fun opportunity to play with new color combinations that I haven't tried in the past. These are cute and comfortable. I finished them towards, I think, the tail end of this summer, so I'm expecting to get more wear out of them next summer. Easy one, hardly even worth showing. I just needed a bag to store my scrap fabric. So I think this took me less than 20 minutes to make. Fastest sewing project of the year award can probably go to this one. And it successfully holds my scrap fabric, so yay. This is the Skyline dress by Sydney Graham, the same designer that worked on the Lane Pants pattern. I really appreciate the way that she writes her patterns. They're very approachable, unintimidating, and come along with tutorial videos. When it comes to tutorial videos, I don't find them necessary for knitting. I never follow them, but I also don't really need them. However, with sewing, I lack a lot of confidence, and I was new and still am new to the world of reading sewing patterns. Having a tutorial video to go along with it made a big difference. So this is her Skyline dress pattern, and I was able to use up a lot of my white-ish scrap fabric, but I was surprised that it didn't use up more. The one adjustment I made to this compared to the pattern is just making the skirt have a lot more volume than it was initially designed for, which is such an easy change to make. Really happy with this project, super pretty, and the fabric on it was just, oh wow, could use a lint roller. But the fabric was just fun to use up, and it was fun to see where all the scraps could go. I was pretty upset on this one because as I had finished it, I accidentally sliced open this white checkered material, but I was like, you know what, whatever, we'll use visible mending. It's a good opportunity for that. So just did a really simple stitch here to close it up, but I did it in this really bright red. So it's a small, subtle thing, but I feel like it just adds to the character of the dress. Right after finishing the dress, I wanted to keep the ball rolling on my sewing projects and immediately started on a scrappy blue top and wanted to make a cute little pajama set. So I made these matching boxers to go with my little top. I don't wear it that often. The fit, I think I somehow messed up on the back because the back rides up really high, but it's kind of lopsided, so it only rides up high on one side. So I don't know what I did there, but something's a little off on this one. Looking at it now, it doesn't look lopsided, so I don't know what the deal is. Maybe I tied my straps lopsided because they're adjustable and they tie, so maybe I messed that up. That's fixable. Okay, this next one's pretty fun. I made Happy Birthday bunting. I so love the idea of having reusable decorations, and I've been trying to slowly build up my decoration collection. I don't have too much storage space, so anything I make has to fit in a very small amount of space, and this just fits that bill so perfectly. It folds up to be incredibly flat, and it's just cute and happy and whimsical. I'm making sure to call out videos where I've worked on a project, so if you do want more detailed information about something, how I made it, you can check out that video for more detailed information, which keeps this video from being just 5 hours long. Oh, and just proof that I made the happy as well. I'd like to make something like this for Christmas, maybe making it look a little bit different, not super matchy. I mean, I could do one of these for every holiday. Just tackle like one a year. There's something really freeing about letting go of the ambition of I need to make all these things for the holidays this year and I want all these decorations, and just sticking to one thing per year. I don't need to be making a million things. Not only do I not need to, we can't. We don't have time for that. With all the sewing projects I worked on this year, I felt like I was ready for something more ambitious and ready to take the next step. It's a skill I do want to develop, and I do have goals in sewing and things I'd like to accomplish. So working on the bubble frock, this dress, was a really great next step and definitely challenged me, learned some stuff. I made 2 of these. So this is number 1. This was meant to be my practice dress, and I didn't want to just do a toile. This one turned out cute on its own. I would wear this to maybe like a summer wedding or something because it is made out of quilter's cotton. And I did know, sewing this up, that it was going to be a little bit different than the final result because I'm using very different materials for both of them. Making this was less about the fit and more about making sure I could actually execute it without ripping into my new material, my more expensive material that I did for the second version of this dress, but I ran into some problems with the second one. Shout out to the designer Lydia Naomi though. She did a great job writing the pattern and also accompanied a video that showed you how to adjust it if you have a larger bust. And I ended up following that tutorial and it made it fit so much better. I'm really thankful that came along with the pattern, because if I had just followed the pattern as is, the way it was measured out, it would have fit pretty awkward. So I'm really thankful for that adjustment and going the extra mile to make something a bit more size inclusive. This is version number 2 of the dress. This is a poly jacquard material, very different from quilter's cotton, and I knew this was going to happen. I knew quilter's cotton, while it doesn't have a ton of stretch, it does stretch out some, and I knew this was not going to stretch out at all. I also knew that this material frays a lot, so I tried to include enough seam allowance on this one to account for me using a serger on all the edges. I'm really glad I serged all the edges, keeping them from fraying too much, because the fraying was really just a lot. So I really tried hard to account for the seam allowance and making sure I was going to get it to fit right. After all that, it was still wrong. It was still too small. It was just a tiny bit too small, but just enough where it was going to be not as fun to breathe if I put it on. Like, I could probably get the zipper up. Actually, I couldn't get the zipper up. I broke the zipper. That was the other problem we ran into. The zipper broke because I bought a cheap zipper, which is the last time I will be doing that. I didn't know that zipper quality would make such a big difference. It does. It really does. So this ended up being too small. I was absolutely devastated and not in a great headspace. You can watch the video for that, but I ended up adding a lace up back on here. The lace up turned out really well. I just kind of guessed on how I thought a lace up back would work. I didn't look up anything, so I am kind of lucky that it just worked out. The fit's really good, and an issue that you can run into with having a lace up back like this, where it doesn't lace super far down, is you have to have an opening in the skirt in order to actually fit it over your hips. So I ended up getting 2 like black invisible snaps on here and made it so that I can snap up that hole in the back, and then you could not tell at all that there was an open back part to this. Really happy with the snaps. They turned out super invisible, just the way I wanted them. I did add pockets to this, but I mentioned it in the video. I need to work on my pocket strategy and actually go through the effort of printing out a pocket pattern. I was told Lydia Naomi actually has a free pocket PDF that you can print out. I'm very happy with this. I would absolutely wear this again in the future. Ages ago, I was at a knit and chat group, which I sadly can no longer attend because of my shift in work schedule, so I haven't been able to go anymore. But when I was there, someone actually gave me a foundation paper piecing pattern that they had found at, I think, an estate sale. And I opened it up right away, was super confused, tried to look up how to do it, was continued being confused. But a week ago, I summoned up the motivation to actually try and learn, and figuring out how to do foundation paper piecing was a struggle. There are not very many tutorials on the internet, and I was really confused by the directions. So after just trial and error, I was able to figure it out, and I'm glad I did. The paper piecing pattern she gave me had a bunch of tulips on it, and it was meant to be like kind of a table runner or a wall hanging, but I ended up just doing the tulip and turning it into something else. It's so cute. I saw these at a craft store a while ago. It's a little pencil holder that you put around your journals. And I wanted one in the store, but looked at it and was like, I can absolutely make that. I do not need to be purchasing it. Thank goodness I didn't, and I finally got around to making one because this is adorable. And I added a little snap closure at the top to keep my pencils and pens a little bit more contained. This is a good project. I did record a lot of me making this and the next 3 projects I'll talk about. Would anyone be interested in a video where I talk about these projects? Let me know. I mean, maybe stick around and see the next couple of projects to see if you'd be interested. But the other nice thing about this one is because it's elastic, it's flexible and fits around a lot of stuff. And I often travel with multiple journals. Like every day for work, I have my personal journal and then I have my work like schedule journal. And it's nice that I can have multiple journals contained and held in the elastic really easily together. So that was one day, and I ended up making stuff the next 2 days as well. I wanted to do a little challenge for myself of making something every day and seeing how long it would take for me to get bored. I didn't get bored, but on day 4, I started working on a bigger project that took a lot longer than expected. So it completely segued me from the making something every day. Day 2 was a very practical item. All of this was intending to use up scrap material as well. So I took a old washcloth that I had, or a hand towel. Sorry, it was a bigger hand towel. Cut it up into little circles and attached quilter's cotton on the back here with a little pocket. And these are reusable makeup remover wipes. I like the little finger holder on the back. If I made these again, the only change I would make is having the holder be a little bit deeper, because as short as it is, it doesn't super work. Like, it works a little bit, but you still have to hold on to the bottom here with your thumb when you're using it. And the intention I was hoping is that you wouldn't have to hold on to it at all and you could just wipe it with your completely flat fingers. Because my issue with makeup remover wipes is that you have to like pinch them. And so you're not working on a flat, even, adjustable, like soft hand. It's a lot more sharp. Do you know what I'm saying? I ended up making 6 of these, and I like that I can just toss them in the wash. And I love that the hand towel, the old hand towel that I had, had this diamond texture on it, and it kind of adds an exfoliating element to this. And just a fun, visual detail as well. The third project took me the longest in my 3-day project journey, and I'm really, really happy with this one. It is a needle kit, because the way I was storing my needles was not safe. I have this iron-on material, so I was able to iron it onto the back of some fabric and cut out the letters. Super freaking adorable. It's held on with snaps on all the corners, and when you first open it up, on the first page you have a pocket where I have my bigger plastic darning needles, and in the middle I have this felt page where I actually store all of my needles, and I use pinking shears to give it like a really cute little edge detail. And on the last page I have a pocket to hold my leather thimble. I'm super in love with this really cute terrazzo patterned fabric. That is it for the sewing projects. I feel like it looks like I've been sewing a lot more than I've been knitting, but sewing is just so much faster that it looks like I'm, cranking stuff out constantly. I definitely spend more time physically knitting than I do sewing. And I do find knitting still to be a lot more relaxing in general than sewing, but I am slowly but surely getting there with sewing. I'm starting to enjoy it a little bit more, which is the overall goal. I want to enjoy it. I don't want to push myself too much that I end up being really frustrated all the time and hating it. So anytime I have pushed myself a little bit too far and do get really frustrated, I try to kind of go back a little bit and work on maybe a simpler project next to rebuild the confidence. I want it to be a sustainable hobby. I made some other stuff this year. I'm not going to show it all, but there are a couple things that I want to highlight just because they're fun and cute. My mom used to make jewelry, so she has a lot of the really nice beads and supplies on hand. And I made a bunch of stuff when I was there, but my favorites is this necklace that I made. I've seen these online, but I wanted one that was made with really high quality materials, not just like cheap plastic beads. I just think it's fun to have something that looks this sort of silly and whimsical, but having it made out of really high quality materials is fascinating and just interesting to me. It hangs a little bit lower than I would like it to. So if I was wearing a shirt like this, I wish you could see it, but it is a little bit too long to be able to see it when I'm wearing something like this. Maybe I'll bring it next time if she has another like end crimp bead. I might shorten it. We'll see. And I made a second one very similar, but did a half and half where it's half colorful fun beads on one side and half just plain white pearl beads on the other. These have just been fun to wear, very whimsical. I'm enjoying it. Another big theme I'm noticing this year is working on, scrappy mismatch projects, which is something that's not very natural to me. I would never have made this when I was a little kid. I would have been very intentional with my choices. So when I did beading, when I was 8 years old, I would do 3 white beads, 1 blue, 3 white, 1 blue. There always had to be a pattern. It had to make sense. So letting go, doing really colorful, scrappy, fun projects is new to me, and it's a muscle I love exercising. It felt very foreign the first couple times I started doing it, but has become way more natural the more I move into it. I made another piece of jewelry this year, and it's gotten so much wear. I wear these at least once a week, oftentimes more, and they are these dangly pearl bow earrings. They're just so beautiful. My only regret is that the bows, I ended up buying these at a store and they were really cheap, so they're already starting to tarnish a bit, and I'm really hoping that they can actually last a while. These are one of the pieces of jewelry that I just love so much. I hope it lasts forever. Something I showed pretty quickly is my field notes journal. I was watching a video Cheyenne Barton did in the fall, and she was showing how she makes her field note journals, and I thought, that's really cute, fun, and easy, and I think it took me 2 hours to make this, and I just used plain printer's paper on the inside and cut up an old Eggo waffle container and turned that into the book cover to make this field notes journal. I don't feel like I need to buy field notes journals anymore. I feel very confident that I can just make them, and it's way more fun and personal that way. I did start a new journal this year. I've talked about journaling in the past, and I've gotten a lot of requests to actually make another journaling video, so I'm gonna see. We'll see. 2026, that might happen. If I did make a journaling video, is there anything in particular you'd want to see from that? Or any themes around that? Because that's what I'm struggling with, is what would I talk about? But I did start a new journal specifically just for painting. I bought gouache paints this year and have really been having fun playing with those. And I just wanted a place to paint in and just have fun. Painting is one of those things that I don't like to learn about formally. I've taken art classes in the past and they are just not my thing. It's just something I like to play with. Some pages definitely look better than others, but that's how scrapbooks work. Like amongst all these pages, I just have this random page of nonsense. And something I would like to try is doing art studies. So if there is an artist that I like, intentionally trying to copy their work and get a feel for their technique, seeing how they actually made something. But I'm trying to keep painting a very low pressure thing. I tend to get very in my head with it, so I don't do it that often. A hobby I got a little bit into this year was stamp making, and before diving fully into a hobby, what I try to do now is get the least amount of supplies and do it the cheapest way possible to start, see if I even like it before buying the nicer thing. So I got a cheap set of stamp carving supplies and bought a pack of erasers and decided to make little eraser stamps. This was a really helpful way for me to approach doing it, and I definitely got a feel for it. It's something I enjoy doing, so fun and satisfying, and I like that any stamps that I make can be totally reusable. I do have fabric ink, and I think it would be nice to do some stamps and actually put them on a t-shirt. For some reason, at the end of the day, making art always comes back to wearables for me. My brain continues to just be tickled by the idea of making your own clothes. I think it'd be really fun to make a t-shirt, like sew a t-shirt and then stamp a design onto it. I just love that you can make clothes. You're taking a really practical item and turning it into art. It doesn't get any cooler than that to me. It really doesn't. And the last thing was just to show off how I'm trying to really personalize all of my clothing in one way or another. This is a sweatshirt in my collection that I really loved, but I wasn't wearing as much. And I was trying to figure out why, and eventually realized it was because the cuffs on them were too tight. It just wasn't physically comfortable to wear, but it was very subtle how tight they were. So I ended up just removing the cuffs altogether because my arms are really short. So these are the perfect fit without the cuffs altogether, and did a little embroidery on the bottom to give a little detail, a little whimsy, and added an embroidery detail along the collar as well. And that one turned out just adorable. And now I have the sweater that I bought that I feel like I put my own stamp on, and I wear it a lot more now because it's physically more comfortable. And I've actually gotten comments from people now on how cute it is that it has these little embroidery details on it. So that's most of what I made in 2025. There are some big questions that I am bringing into next year and really want to reflect on a bit, which is, what is the purpose of art? When is knitting and crochet art as opposed to the alternative? Is it always art? What's the role of functionality and practicality in making? And what's my goal? What's my purpose when I'm making something? An expansion on that, furthermore, is, do I need to have a goal or a purpose, or can I make without purpose at all? So I have a lot of more philosophical questions brewing in my head around fiber arts, art, making, crafting in general. I'm interested to explore those next year, and also a little bit scared. Something else I spent a lot of time making this year that I do want to mention is making YouTube videos. It is a form of creative expression for me. They are fun to make, but they're also really challenging. And like any other craft, it can be really frustrating to make. It can be really fun, empowering, humbling. And so I just wanted to shout out what I think my top 10 videos of this year are, as sort of sponsoring myself, I guess. This video is brought to you by me. So I thought about ranking the videos I've made this year, but that's not the move. And I just couldn't do it because I like a lot of them, but for different reasons. So I pulled out my top 10 and have superlatives for each one. The best one with educational content in it has got to be my self-drafting 201 video, paired along with my video on how I construct my drop shoulder sweaters. I have had a lot of messages from people saying that they actually used that and made their own sweaters and self-drafted for the first time, or that they've been really intimidated by it in the past, but that made it make sense, which is just the sweetest comment to leave, by the way. The best script that I wrote this year was absolutely my personal style series. It was definitely a deviation from the normal content on my channel, but those are some of the best videos in terms of script organization and the front end work that went into making those videos. And again, I had a lot of people message me saying, I didn't even know you did crafting. I just found you from these videos. I've been sending them to all my friends. I had a lot of people send me their color palettes because I talked about how to design a color palette for yourself that you'll actually like and wear, as opposed to just what would like go best with your skin tone. And I was really proud of myself for having a fresh take on personal style and organized it in a way that made sense for me. The best little project was my post-it notes. Short, easy, simple, but it was the first time this year that I had rediscovered my love for doing tiny little projects. It's been a long time. I don't normally let myself prioritize small projects, but this year, since doing that, I've been getting much better at letting myself do these smaller projects. My best advice video was knitting for when you're overwhelmed or overstimulated. Work on projects not for making the coolest thing or the biggest thing, but for having something that can help me calm down and be really grounding. So it meant I worked on more simple projects this year. But yeah, that video really captures a lot of how I use knitting to alleviate feelings of overwhelm and overstimulation. The best intro that I did this year, because I did some really fun intros, absolutely, the moth video was my favorite intro. If you have not seen the moth video, just watch the first minute and let me know what you think. You can click off after that, but just watch the first minute. Tell me your thoughts. It was so silly. That was so fun to make. Do your cats ever creep you out? Like they do something really creepy. Mary's being really creepy right now. She's slowly opening a door and it's creaking so much, and the door's by the entryway in the darkness. If I get murdered, you call someone. Okay, we're good. We're good. She's just being creepy. The best reveal was probably finishing my whips colorful edition. I did something a little different for the end to show off the articles of clothing that I had made, and I have a really difficult time filming those because I hate widescreen. I wish YouTube videos were more square. It's very hard to show an entire outfit when you're working with a widescreen. You have to stand so far back. So the end of that video was really me trying to troubleshoot how I can show off clothing items that require a vertical orientation while working around the limitation of having all of this space on the sides here. The video altogether was also really good. I'm really happy with that, finishing my whips videos. It's one of the ones that I released and was really happy when I released it. I was not nervous at all. I was just like, I'm really happy with this one. The best montages. If you don't know, making a montage is my absolute favorite thing to do in editing. I hate videos where I have to put a bunch of pictures on the screen. That is the most tedious thing to do. It drives me crazy. There's a lot of that I'm gonna have to do for this video, and I'm not looking forward to it. But oh, how I love doing a montage. They're so fun. So my knitting across 2,000 miles or 3,000 kilometers was the best montages I think I've made this year. I'm really happy with them. They were really cute. I had a lot of really good montages though this year. I love them. The best story with the biggest emotional roller coaster is sewing my Christmas dress. That is the 2 bubble frock dresses. There was a lot of feelings and emotion in there. I'm also really, really happy with the editing. And something that was really interesting that you may or may not have noticed if you did watch it was the editing style changed as the video went on. The video quality sort of devolves as my state of mind devolves in the video, which is kind of an interesting editing technique. I debated refilming some sections to make them a little higher in quality and decided against it, specifically because I liked the visual storytelling element of the filming and editing style reflecting my mental state as I work through the project, where I feel like I started off really, really strong with the editing. I'm really, really happy with the first half of editing. It was a lot of effort. But yeah, that was interesting. The editing was definitely part of the storytelling process on that one. The most vibey videos that I made, where I stuck to a theme, was my 2 Halloween videos. And the thing I did differently for those is I created a storyboard. So instead of writing out an outline for the video, or oftentimes I'll just hit record and whatever comes out of my mouth is the video. On that one, I did a visual storyboard with images, and that really contributed to the aesthetic, because if you watch those videos, you can see a very clear through line and vision of what I wanted the video to look like from start to finish. And they were executed really well. So I'm so happy with those. And the highest quality video I made all year, in my opinion, is finishing my whips, where I worked on the baby clone trooper sweater. I think it was the first finishing my whips of 2025. It just worked. It worked out really well. Everything just smoothly happened in that video. I didn't have much of a plan going into it, and everything I added to it just worked out really well. I do often rewatch my videos. It's a good exercise for me to have fresh eyes and try to separate myself and watch it as a viewer. So I'll work on a project while watching one of my videos on my iPad and try and watch it the same way that you would be watching one of my videos. And it's a great way for me to see, where did I get bored? What entertained me? What went really well? What was I impressed by? It's just, I get a lot of learnings from watching my own videos. And if I find that I'm ever feeling really cringy about something, well, then I've really messed up. I should be proud of these when I'm done with them. I shouldn't be cringing at what I've made. But the baby knits one was one that, while editing, I was like, this is good. This is really good. And I rewatched it and was entertained the whole time. So that's it. I am going to go see Avatar Fire and Ash for the second time in theaters. And I'm going to get something to drink. Oh my gosh. I need water. Thank you for joining me. I have a lot of cleaning up to do, so wish me luck on that one. And I look forward to next year, because next year I'm feeling a little crazy. I'm feeling silly, and my projects are absolutely going to reflect that.